This is for entertainment purposes only. This short story is only for people over the age of 18.
Are you recording? Okay, don't take anything I say personally. I am outside the government. I am accountable to no one. I am paid by people who choose not to know how I do things. The only thing I do is investigate the unusual and deal with things to the best outcome. I'm not on the side of the angels, but I will take down the demons if they try to muck up humans. My funds are not endless, but they are substantial. This lets me have some computer software that most do not have. Incorporate that with the alien tech that I've recovered, and I have one of the first real synthetic intelligence. I call him Peter because I keep expecting him to betray me. Peter has been useful in finding strange things.
Sir, I have discovered a pattern that is outside the norm.
Peter said one morning after I dragged myself out of bed.
Go for it.
I said, making it to the kitchen and finding I had just enough coffee for 1 cup.
There is an increased number of women getting breast implants in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Peter said evenly.
Ohio.
I said, and the jokes started going through my head.
The hayseed girls are trying to compete with normal girls?
Unclear.
Peter responded. Peter does not get humor. Peter, either the alien or the AI, couldn't understand humor despite how many definitions were downloaded.
Please send the info to my phone.
I asked.
Also check in with that one DNA lab about the sample off the grimoire we sent in last week. We should have had something by now. On a personal note, please put on my grocery list coffee.
Yes, sir.
Peter answered.
I would also remind you that in a week you are to give a lecture on the Akashic Records at Columbia.
Hell, I forgot.
I said, remembering that I was asked to do this by one of my backers. I agreed since I'm one of the few people who've been able to tap into the mystical library. I don't say that to other people. I do explain the theory and reason for the theory. I don't tell people I've mentally been to a place where I can learn anything about anything regardless of subject, time, or space.
Peter dig through my computer and find a report I wrote up in 1973 on the Akashic Records and incorporate new understanding, and then send that to my phone. I'll make it sound like something I didn't throw together right before I retired.
It is on our phone now, sir.
Peter responded.
Thank you, Peter.
I said, letting the coffee maker do its thing.
Please book me a flight to, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Cincinnati, Ohio, for some time today.
Already made, sir.
Peter stated as I headed for the bathroom.
Your flight leaves in 4 hours.
I don't look like someone that was born before World War I. I don't even look like I was born before the turn of the century. This body, my body, looks nothing like what I used to look like when I was in my late teens. One of the strange events that happened to me resulted in being gifted a new body. This was mostly because my old and decrepit body was almost destroyed in some alien god battle that had made it to Earth. This was in the early 80s, and when those alien gods were being mended, I was picked up too. This resulted in my brain being put into a synthetic body that after 40-plus years has not aged a day, and I'm stronger and faster than anyone else. I could dominate the Olympics if I tried, but that would attract attention. Every 10 years or so, I make my death seem reasonable and reappear as someone new. It's getting harder with the newer technology, but I have friends in high places. The one thing this new synthetic body can't do is reproduce. I have the equipment, but none of the genetic material. Damn aliens. Ohio, round on both sides and high in the middle, describes most of the people I saw when I first arrived. Everyone seemed to have love handles. I smelled marijuana before I smelled anything else. Out the window of the plane, I saw farms, more farms, smaller farms, a few houses, the city, and then we landed. This entire state looked like nothing but farms. I wanted to ask where I got a stock of straw to put my teeth to fit in, but apparently, I would be the only one. If I wanted a vape pen to smell like I had just smoked a roach, then I would have fit in. I got my own rental, and had Peter disable the tracking in it. I'll be damned if anyone knows where I'm going. I knew where I was going. I was headed for a township just outside of Cincinnati called Hamilton. This is where most of the women getting breast implants live. Looking up statistics, the number of women in the area that got breast implants, after you subtract those getting implants post-breast cancer surgery, never topped the teens in a month. That number jumped to 50 just 2 months ago, and then to over 100 for the previous month. This was unusual and not normal. That's why I was in Ohio. The plastic surgeons don't have great security on their computers, and Peter had little effort getting the names and addresses of the new female clients. There was a theme. These women had recently lost a lot of weight, they wanted the loose skin taken off, and massive silicone breast implants put in. I had Peter double-check the instructions since every woman was getting silicone breast implants that were between 800 cubic centimeters and 1,000 cubic centimeters. This would make women extremely top-heavy, and the breasts would stick out, clearly fake, and possibly firm. More than one woman had notes in their files that this would be only their first round of implants and wanted to get at least 2,000 cubic centimeters of silicone breast implants. I knew who I was looking for. I didn't know the name. That would come later. I just knew who to look out for. Almost as soon as I crossed over the line into Hamilton Township, I started noticing the changes. Things seemed happier. There were people walking up and down the streets, and they were smiling. Lots of joggers, mostly female, mostly barely clothed, going up and down the sidewalks. There was no loud music. There wasn't a persistent marijuana smell. I even saw a mom cutting the hair of her two shirtless boys on their front porch. Redneck, yes, but also endearing. I hit the post office first. I've gotten very good at talking to people over the years. I didn't even need Peter to hack into their computers and tell me what I needed to know. I let the attractive brunette with a massive rack tell me what I needed to know. A few filtration lines and some well-placed questions told me what I wanted to know. Fetish outfits were being shipped to the mansion on Mainaville Road. With Peter's cross-checking, I now had a name and nearly complete history. Dallas Hawk was one sad kid, born and raised in Hamilton Township. Mother was an alcoholic. Father was a truck driver and drug dealer. Dallas was kicked out of high school for dealing drugs. Dallas did odd jobs and house maintenance to pay bills. There was one report of him possibly grave robbing, but this never led to charges when he suddenly had money, women, and moved out to Mainaville Road. One report connected to Dallas, and the house was a possible kidnapping. Shelley Peters was a cute blonde 20-something babe. She had been working out at the Salt River Gym, and her boyfriend Zach Varnum was going to pick her up. Zach got to the gym in time for Shelley to get into a car and take off. Zach followed. Zach tried to call Shelley when Shelley's cell phone went flying out the driver's side window. Zach called the sheriff, and the license plate came back to Dallas Hawk. This led to the house. Then the report gets vague. The situation was resolved. That was the end of it. Shelley Peters was one of the women that 1,000 cubic centimeter breast implants were put into. The surgeons describe her figure as an extremely physically fit body. The mansion could have used a name. It was big enough it could have had one. 5.5 stories tall, red brick outside with tall white windows. There was a garage out back, still attached to the house, but out of sight from the main white stone road up to the home. I could smell a river nearby. I watched the place from a distance, and all I could see were women. None of them had clothes on. Each woman had the same physical characteristics. They all had muscular bodies, like extremely muscular. Each woman had to put in hours of weightlifting each day to get the muscles that I was seeing. There were the extremely large breasts. Even after 2 months, there wasn't a woman at the mansion that didn't have huge globes on their chests. Since they were naked, I can attest to the fact the only hair they all had was only on their heads and nowhere else. They all seemed to have low body fat, as in unhealthily low, but ready for some kind of muscle competition low. I had an image of a wellness convention bikini competition when I saw the women around the house, walking about looking for anything wrong or out of place. With over 150 women that had breast implants linked to Hamilton Township, this was only about 15 women, and those were ones I could see. I watched and waited. Since getting my new body, I need sleep, but not that much. I've also found that mosquitoes don't like me. It's a small blessing. I've never been bothered by heat or cold much, unless it has been extreme, one way or the other. This meant I could surveil the mansion, almost non-stop, snacking on some protein bars and beef sticks while sipping small amounts of water. I saw nothing. At 5 in the morning there appeared to be a shift change in the women. A short white bus showed up. The first group put on clothes, if you could call the scraps of cloth that barely covered their private parts clothes. Then the women swapped out, including the driver. I watched the second group of women go inside, take off their minimal clothing, and start going around the house, looking for anything they could do, while the bus drove off. I needed to go into the mansion. So, I got what I needed from the local Walmart.
Gas inspector.
I said, sounding bored, when I got to the mansion later that morning. The woman that answered the door had thrown on a robe. It did little to hide that she was naked under it, given how much of her breasts were showing between the folded over front. She was good-looking, in a handsome sort of way, and her blonde hair looked almost natural. She looked me up and down more than once as if she was trying to figure out if I was legitimate. I had a yellow hard hat, the reflective yellow vest, a flannel work shirt, jeans, boots, a clipboard, and a digital-looking wand that could have been used for detection. The costume is important. What's more important is the attitude. I needed to look like someone that was tired of their job and would rather be doing anything else, but needed the money. You've seen it a million times, even if it wasn't from someone trying to get into a home.
Aren't you a little young?
The woman countered.
Yes.
I agreed.
I'm the youngest one of the lot. That doesn't mean I can't wave a wand around and fulfill the contract.
Will this take long?
The woman asked.
Doubtful.
I said with a shrug.
I just need to check the line for leaks between where it comes into the house to the furnace and water heater.
It didn't take long. I also learned everything I needed to know. I didn't see another woman after coming into the house. I bet they were all hiding until the coast was clear. The basement was divided into a closed-off living area and a work area. The work area had the usual washer, dryer, furnace, and small workshop. I saw what I needed to see in the workshop area. A packet of sweatbands for runners, a silver necklace with what would have had a stone in the middle, currently being gripped by an overly large metal vise. There was also an unpleasant smell coming from the closed-off living area. As I waved the wand around the gas line, I could see the blonde hesitate when looking at the closed-off living area. There was a look of concern on her face. When she thought I wasn't looking, I saw her almost put her hand out in the direction of the door to the area, as if she wanted to go in, but couldn't. I could feel there was something behind that door, and it was old, powerful, but not sledgehammer-like demanding. I signed and dated 2 copies of paperwork that looked legitimate. I had her sign and print her name on my copy before leaving. Kira Golchabert was absolutely on my list of women who had breast implants. I remembered that last name. I got food in town. I wanted to get some sleep, but every hotel, bed and breakfast, and Airbnb were booked. I ended up sleeping in my car outside of a church before going back to the mansion that night. There was a partial window into the basement just big enough to escape out of or break in. I found Dallas, or what was left of him. I've seen stones like the one embedded in his head before too. This one was purple, about the size of a jelly bean, and had melted into the flesh and bone of Dallas' forehead, as well as through the cheap, synthetic, yellow headband. Dallas had pried the stone from a necklace, not bothering to ask why someone would wear something that had magical powers around their neck, outside of clothes, and he put it into the headband, right against his skin. It would have been a horror show if I wanted to describe exactly what Dallas looked like. I don't, so just take my word for it, the scene was ugly. If Dallas wasn't dead already, he would be soon. I got my utility tool out, and with the pliers grabbed onto the stone. I felt a flash through my synthetic body into my human mind. Dallas, growing up poor and neglected. He never had what everyone else had in love, happiness, or money. Selling drugs until being kicked out of school. Digging up fresh graves with the same equipment that had put the person in the ground in the first place. Splitting profits from sales of jewelry with the cemetery groundskeeper. Finding the necklace with the purple stone. Putting on the necklace and finding people did what he thought. Knowing he wanted women with big breasts, perfect tight bodies, little clothing, and wanting to serve him. Every woman that went through Hamilton Township, who was single and reasonably good-looking, became ensnared by his desires. That's all Dallas was anymore. His brain had been burned out by the stone. All that remained were his desires that were no longer valid with the husk of a body. I pulled the stone free, with a sound that will forever haunt me. The stone came away from Dallas, and what was left of Dallas went down. I listened but didn't hear anything from upstairs. It would have been easier if when the stone came free of Dallas, the women were freed too, but that doesn't always happen. When I said that I knew who I was looking for, that's because I've done this before. Never with one of these power stones, though. I've dealt with people's souls being trapped in magic mirrors. I've dealt with alien tech suppressing people's free will. I've even dealt with a super advanced hypnosis technique used at traveling carnivals decades ago. Every time, it is almost the exact same thing. A person that feels they've been wronged by society wants to get what they think they deserve. This person will get the biggest house, the fanciest car, and the sexiest of women. Dallas got most of that, even if he fried his brain before he could really enjoy it. I put the power stone back into the necklace, more a brooch really, and slipped it around my neck, letting it rest over top of my tactical vest. I could feel the minds around me. I could feel the commands from the stone in every person's mind, like a different color or font written on their minds. I went through the women outside of the mansion first and wiped away the commands from the stone. This took a bit of doing, but it wasn't long before I believed I got everyone. Then I worked inward as I could feel how exhausting using the power was getting. I wiped out the commands from the women in the mansion. That's when I started hearing the screaming from above. Even with my synthetic body, I could feel how hot the stone was, and if I didn't have a tactical vest and shirt between me and it, then I am sure the stone would have burned into my chest like it had Dallas' head. I got out the way I came in, making sure the small window was shut before women burst into the basement, and louder screaming could be heard. I got into my rental and went straight into the heart of Cincinnati to spend a few hours before dawn. The necklace is now in a secure place. I bought some cheap costume jewelry and mixed the necklace in with that before mailing it back to my place and then on to where no one will find it. I flew back the same day, not sorry to leave Ohio. Was Ohio bad? Not what I saw. Was it good? No. The owner of the mansion was found at his beach house in Florida with 3 big-breasted, buff women less than half his age. The owner of the mansion also owned the cemetery where Dallas found the necklace. This man claimed not to know Dallas or what he was doing dead in his basement. I do know this guy's wife was in California with a man half her age, and the 3 women that were in Florida came to Ohio and are living in the mansion. Should I use the necklace to see if this needs to be rectified? I probably shouldn't remove the necklace from its secure placement, so I'm willing to chalk these up to being acceptable losses. The only thing I can say came of this side trip to Ohio was I now know there's a power stone that I classify as human mind control. I know there are at least 5 power stones that let a person move things with their mind. There have been 3 such stones that I have encountered that let a person control the weather. I have personally witnessed 3 stones that let a person control plant life. I've seen 1 stone that lets a person control lightning, and by extension all DC current. This is the first such stone that I am aware of that lets a person directly control the mind of another. Such stones should be isolated from humans and prevented from being used. Since no one has the authority to tell me otherwise, this is what I have been doing, minus 1 person that controls plants. I like her. She gets to keep hers as long as she doesn't do anything stupid. This could have been a lot worse. Dallas Hawk clearly knew what the stone did. After all, his partner in crime got 3 women, while Dallas got the house. Only the women going through Hamilton Township were caught in the Power Stone's control. If Dallas had done this in the middle of New York City, things would have been infinitely worse. If Dallas hadn't been greedy and left the stone on something he could wear outside his clothes, then things would have been worse and harder to track. In the end, I am going to report this. I caught this one because Dallas was stupid. I can only catch the ones that screw up. Who knows how many more people are out there with power stones capable of human mind control? I might never catch the ones that are smart. Okay, Peter, I'm done. No one will ever read this report anyhow. You can stop recording. God, I'm tired.
The end. This was a work of fiction. Any similarity between people, living or dead, is purely coincidence. This scenario did not, or should not, have happened in real life. Thank you for listening.